Okie dokie, artichoke. Welcome back to another Friday Live. And this one is going to be a very special one. So, as you're tuning in, let me know a few things, okay? So, as you're tuning in, let me know what your name is. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And then let me know something really, really good that's going on in your life right now, because I want to celebrate you, okay? So, I will kick it off. And so you get like the rhythm of how I want you to like let me know some things, okay? So I'm Connor. If you don't know, my name is Connor. I'm from Pittsburgh, and something really, really good that's going on in my life right now is that today we got a haircut, and a couple days ago, if you don't watch my stories, I remeasured myself, and we are officially 6'1". We are officially 6'1", and that made my whole week. It's probably going to make the rest of my life because we're going to be 6'1" for the rest of my life. So that is something that's really, really good going on in my life. I also had a really, really good conversation with my Uber driver today, and I had to make a post about it if you didn't see that. So, like I said, let me know a few things. Let me know what your name is. Let me know, let me know where you're tuning in from, and let me know something really, really good that's going on in your life right now, and I can celebrate you guys, okay? All right, let's see who we got. So, we have got Shelby from Kansas City. She is living her best single life. Join the club. Join the club, Shelby. We love that. Robin from Pennsylvania. Okay, we got a fellow Pennsylvanian in the house. Joshua is from Ohio. Alrighty, we got Dana from Boston, Massachusetts. What's going on, Dana? And so, yeah, Karen from SoCal. All right, close by, Karen. Candace is from England, and she's in Greece for the holiday. That is super fun. I hope you enjoy your holiday. Super cool. International. B from ATL. What is going on, B? Dana just had a baby girl. Let's go. Congratulations, Dana. That is super exciting. Is that your first one, or is that like you have several, so you know how to do this? You know how to do these kind of things? We got Florida in the house. We got Hawaii. Tammy from Virginia. Joseph from New York. Zane from Florida. Just restarted school. Okay. Good luck with your school year, man. We got... Oh my God, this is a hard city to pronounce. Austining, New York. Oh, we got the phonetic spelling. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Anna. Daisy from West Midlands in England. All right, welcome Daisy. In the EU. All right, cool. We got a birthday. Happy birthday. It's one of my best friend's birthdays today. August 18th. Love that. We love that day. We got Landon, Wisconsin in the house. Jessica from Arizona. V from Mexico. Happy birthday, Jenny Cole. We got Australia in the house. All right, so thank you for letting me know where you guys are tuning in from. We got Philippines in the house, Uganda in the house. All these, we got like across the map, across the country. So we got a special one. We got a special live coming up today. So I took the liberty to say that this topic is going to be the topic that was the other option that I put on my poll from last week. So we're going to talk a little bit about healthy habits today, okay? We got Riverside, San Clemente, daughter turned half a year. Happy birthday, happy half birthday to your daughter then. So yeah, we're going to talk about healthy habits today. So that was going to be the other option as far as what my life was going to be last week. And so, yeah, I want to talk about that. And so I'm going to break it down into 3 different dimensions. And that's how this is going to progress. Okay. And so don't worry. You don't need to stay this whole time. I'm going to post this right after. I'm also going to throw it up on like podcasts and stuff like that too, if you ever want to listen to it. So if you want to hop in and hop out, bop in, bop out, that's cool too. Okay. I'm just happy you guys are here and we're spending some time together. Okay. All right, so we're going to be talking about daily healthy habits to grow your fitness, to grow your business, and then also to grow your relationships today, okay? So we got Victoria from San Antonio, Texas. What is going on, Victoria? I'm glad you're here. And so, yeah. So we're going to talk about healthy habits relating to fitness, healthy habits relating to your business, career, whatever that is you do for work. And then lastly, we'll wrap it up with talking a little bit about healthy habits to grow your relationships, okay? So let's get going, okay? So it's not going to be like Q&A style. If you want to drop questions, maybe I'll like answer them one off, but this is going to be a little bit more like me just speaking off my head and like giving you some of the thoughts that I have like when it comes to these things, and hopefully it can serve you guys, okay? So let's get going, okay? Hope you're having a great Friday. You're looking so good, and this is the time to start, okay? All right. So let's start off with talking about some healthy habits relating to your fitness, okay? So I when I was doing my little 20-minute prep, whenever I like try and like get ready for these lives, I just take like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and literally sit down and type out sort of like a general like conceptual thing that I'm gonna like walk through and work through. I don't necessarily write a script out or anything like that. I just have like some notes here that I just want to like speak to. So when I first started doing this, I was like, okay, what are some healthy habits when it comes to fitness that I personally do on a daily basis? And I was going to start to talk about morning routine, because that has been literally groundbreaking for me as far as like having some kind of routine to fall into when I start my days. But I think there's something that I want to mention prior to talking about morning routine, because I think that I know like my mornings are kind of thrown off if I don't get this right. So what that is a nightly routine, okay? So nightly routine is important. It's going to be the preclude. It's going to preclude our morning routine, because what time I go to bed and is really going to determine what time I wake up. So I want to talk about nightly routine first before I talk about morning routine, and then we'll get into a little bit more like specifics when it comes to like training and diet and just some super basic things when it comes to like some daily healthy habits that you can do that I have really seen, a lot of benefits from, and I've, helped a lot of my clients with like helping instill some of those healthy habits into their fitness routine too, okay? So let's talk about nightly routine first, okay? So before we can like establish, I feel like, a proper morning routine, I think one of the biggest things when it comes to establishing a really, really good and beneficial morning routine is when you wake up, when your morning starts, okay? So for me, ideally, in a perfect world, my morning routine would be, let's start at 5 a.m. and get the day going from there, okay? But typically, it doesn't always start at 5 a.m. because I like to try and get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So if I'm not going to bed, let's say by 9 or 10 p.m., then my morning routine wouldn't start until if I wake up and I'm feeling like I'm sleepy, then I'm going to get my 7 to 8 hours, like regardless of what like my morning routine, like when that time's going to start. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about like nightly routine before we do morning routine going forward. Okay. So this is what I've kind of found to be more beneficial for me when it comes to getting to bed on time. So like, I tried the whole like let's go to bed at midnight and still wake up at 5 a.m. I tried all that. I tried the whole let's go to bed at 9, let's get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And what I have found to be the best for me, like not only like physically healthy, but also like, mentally, like I have like mental clarity. I have everything is like whole, everything is good. There's, not a whole lot of like problems that are going on inside me or with like my health or with like physically, mentally, whatever you want to, call it that, is if I need to get like 7 to 8 hours of sleep, like regardless of what is going on like outside of my life. A good night's sleep is going to be the cure to literally so many problems that I've had, and I'm sure that maybe you have had too. So sleep is the number one thing that we need to get enough of, okay? And if I feel like we don't get enough of, we kind of just fall into this sleep deficit. So that is going to be the number one thing when it comes to developing healthy habits with your fitness, okay? So 7 to 8 hours of sleep, regardless of what's going on. 8's going to be better than 7, but if we can start with working up to 7, that's going to be the best bet, okay? So if we're going to get to bed, if we want to start our day by 5 a.m., that means if we're going to get 7 hours of sleep, we need to get to bed at 10 p.m., okay? So if you're like me, it's hard to just like, okay, it's 10 p.m., I'm not really tired, but I'm going to go to bed anyway. I feel like that's almost like counterproductive for me, because I can't just like lay in my bed and like try and fall asleep if I'm not tired. Like I just cannot do that. I don't know if you guys can do that at all, but I personally like cannot do that if I'm not really tired. But And because of that, what I've started to do is develop a better nightly routine, develop a better wind down routine that I have in my night. So basically that starts at 8 o'clock right now for me. So a lot of people might just watch like Netflix. Excuse me, might watch Netflix or something for like that, like in their nights. Obviously, like that's basically sort of like what I do too for an hour. And so, it all starts at 8 o'clock for me. And then typically what I try and do is I try and cut all of my water intake. Same, can't sleep but not tired. Literally impossible. I try and cut all my water intake. I try and cut all my caffeine intake. Typically about like 6 to 8 hours prior to when I'm going to bed. The reason why I'm trying to cut down on my water intake prior to when I'm going to bed is because if I'm drinking like a lot of fluids, a lot of liquid close to when I'm going to bed, then I'm probably going to have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And that's going to interrupt my sleep, and it's probably not going to be a good vibe or a good time for the next day, okay? So that's why I'm trying to cut my water intake out like 6 to 8 hours and just like sip on my water basically from that time forward. I'm not like taking like big gulps, not finishing this whole thing like within 6 to 8 hours of when I'm going to bed. I'm just like sipping it as I'm thirsty. So that's the big thing I do. I try and cut all my caffeine intake out 6 to 8 hours too. So I'm not taking any like coffee. I'm not doing any energy drinks, in the late afternoon to late evenings to late nights. No pre-workout if I'm doing like a late afternoon, evening workout. None of that, because that's going to keep me up. It's going to delay my melatonin. It's going to delay all of these hormones that are natural, relating to my circadian rhythm and my clocks that are going to like automatically just make me tired and want to fall asleep and go to bed easily. Caffeine inhibits you from doing all that, right? That's really all that caffeine does. It basically blocks melatonin, from entering your system, essentially is what caffeine is. So I cut all of that out. That's like one of the healthy habits that I'm trying to do. Like, you can still take caffeine, but do it a little bit earlier in your day. Still get a gallon of water, 3/4 of a gallon of water to 100, a gallon of water in throughout your whole day. But try and do it like first thing in the morning when you wake up, or maybe at least by like 12. That's what I try and do, okay? And so to talk just a little bit more about like sleep, what I like to do when it comes to getting a full 7 to 8 hours of proper sleep and proper rest, some of the things that I try and do are that I try not to look at my phone in the middle of the night, because that's going to mess up your, if you're seeing that in your eyes, it's going to be like your mind's going to think that it's morning and I should get my day going and I should stop sleeping and I should start my day. So I've stopped doing that from the hours of like, I was listening to an Andy Huberman podcast, and he was saying like, if you're looking at your phone between the hours of 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., that there's some kind of gland in your brain that is also something that leads to like mental, an unhealthy mental state, like depressive states. So you don't want to be looking at your phone like between 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. Like, please do not do that, as little as you can. So I try and do that like little to none in the middle of the night. If I do wake up, like I have to go to the bathroom or something like that, I try not to look at my phone. Another thing that you can do if you're having trouble sleeping is try and make your room as dark as you possibly can. So something that I know, like a lot of people have like windows and stuff in their bedroom. And so what you can try and do is like, I used to have a clock, like all these like light emitting surfaces, or faces, like light emitting faces. If you have this in your room, like an alarm clock or, whatever is going to like emit light in your room, try and like unplug that, or try and like not have that out, because that's just going to make your room just a tad bit brighter and like not darker. So it's going to be like maybe something like, obviously you might adapt to that and just are like used to like sleeping with like an alarm clock. Like I've slept with an alarm clock and I've loved to just wake up and see what time it was. For some reason, I just like really like that. But over the past like 6 months, I like put my alarm clock away, and I literally have like my watch that I just look at to see like what time it is in the middle of the night if I ever want to know that. Okay, so going to bed, having a wind down routine of like an hour or so where you're not looking at email, you're not doing anything that's going to stress you out, like you're not doing any work, God forbid, like an hour before you go to bed. That's going to help with your sleeping patterns. Cutting your water intake, cutting your caffeine intake 6 to 8 hours prior to going to bed is going to help too. making sure your room is as dark as possible is going to help. And then also we don't want to be looking at our phone between the hours of like 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. Because it's probably it's gonna waken you up a little bit more when your body is like wanting or needing a little bit more sleep. And it's also probably going to not lead to the best like mental state as well. Okay. All right. So that was what I wanted to get off my chest. That was like the longest freaking intro, prior to getting into morning routine. But that is, I feel like nighttime routine is what I'm realizing is like the hack to getting a good morning routine down and like starting, from the jump. Okay. So these are just like what I've learned in my experience over the past couple of years. So, yeah, nightly routine knocked off. All right, let's get into morning routine a little bit, okay? So, what about food intake pre-sleep? That's a good question. So, in a perfect world, you have sort of like trade-offs, right? Okay, so I've talked a little bit more about like training 101 and nutrition 101, and you have things that are going to be a little bit better, more bang for your buck if you focus on them versus maybe some. All right, we're back. All right, so I've talked a little bit more about like training 101, nutrition 101 before, and I kind of describe, them as like pyramids, right? So you have things where you can kind of focus on when it comes to your nutrition. You have things that you can focus on when it comes to your training that are going to be a little bit better of provide you with more bang for your buck than if you focused on, say, other things, okay? So on the training side, let's say like, training side, you could focus on how much am I resting between sets or something like that, right? You're like, oh, I'm not making enough gains. I'm not seeing progress in the gym because I'm not resting enough, right? But maybe you're not taking a step back and looking at it like from a bird's eye view and thinking, oh, well, maybe I'm not making enough gains because I'm not doing the right exercises, right? Maybe I'm doing like the wrong exercises. I'm not doing the compound exercises that are going to lead to the most muscle growth. Rather, I'm doing a lot of more like isolation exercises that maybe aren't like challenging my muscles to grow enough. But I'm not resting enough. Like the resting interval is what I'm focusing on. I'm not focusing on the exercise selection. Where like, if you step back, look at it from a bird's eye view, the thing that's going to be the best bang for your buck is going to be your exercise selection. It's not really going to be your rest interval, okay? So that's just what I wanted to preface that, like in my response to like the food intake is, in general, when it comes to your diet, I wanted to talk a little bit about this on the diet so I could just like talk to it real quick here. Overall, not to confuse you at all, but like if we can just hit our protein intake, if you can just get your protein in, the right amount of protein in for your day, you don't need to worry about anything else, okay? If you're like new to dieting, if you're new to macros, if you're new to MyFitnessPal, if you're new to tracking calories and all that, there's probably a lot that you're like overwhelmed with, okay? Like I have a lot of clients that'll come to me and be like, Connor, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do when it comes to my diet, okay? And what I just tell them is I'll give them their meal plans that I make for them, but a lot of the times it might be like super overwhelming for them. They've never really gotten these types of groceries before. They've never had to like prep food like this before or like, eat this much food or this little food before. They're kind of just used to like intuitively eating. And unfortunately, maybe that's led to some unhealthy habits and that's led to them like maybe gaining some weight and probably in some like places they don't want to, okay? So what I tell them is, maybe for the first couple of weeks, I say like, hey, maybe let's just focus on eating enough protein on a day-to-day basis, okay? Like let's hit your protein grams when it comes to your macronutrient goals. Let's hit your protein goals on a day-to-day basis. Don't worry about like your carbs. Don't worry about your fat. Just hit your protein, okay? Protein is going to be the most satiating macronutrient between protein, fat, and carbs, meaning that it's going to fill you up the most. It's going to leave you the least hungry after you eat something like that, okay? So that's important to know. Not to get down a rabbit hole, but like a good adequate protein recommendation, it's going to depend if you're trying to cut weight. If you're trying to cut weight, you're probably going to want to eat a little bit more protein. If you're trying to bulk up and put on some muscle, you don't necessarily need as much. For certain reasons that I won't really get into, it's for another day. I've kind of gone over that before, but good adequate amount of protein if you're a guy. eat your body weight in grams of protein. I'm 200 pounds. I try and get 200 grams of protein in every day. If you're a woman, it might sound like a lot. Typically what I recommend is 3/4 to 80% of your weight. So if you weigh 100 pounds as a girl, if you can get in 75 grams to 80 grams of protein every single day, that's awesome. And yeah, so I wanted to mention that because like when it comes to food intake prior to when you're going to bed, ideally, if you want to go a step further after getting all your protein in, maybe we hit an adequate amount of calories for the day. Maybe we hit an adequate amount of carbs and fat for the day. And then, ultimately, I wanted to say that because timing of your food intake comes into play when it comes to going to bed, obviously, right? So if you're like me, sometimes like I actually feel like I can sleep better when I've actually eaten some like food like immediately, like right before I go to bed. I actually feel like I can sleep better. I don't know if you guys feel that way too, but if I haven't eaten for a couple hours, it's actually kind of hard for me to fall asleep. Like, I don't know, like it's probably like counterintuitive, but it's probably not many people think that way. I don't know. You have to like let me know. But for me, like I actually sleep better like on a full stomach. And so then it comes into play like, okay, in a perfect world, if we're checking off all of our boxes on our lists, then like what should we focus on? I'm the same way. Yeah. So ultimately, I actually try eating 3 hours before bed. Yeah. So that would actually be like in a perfect world, we would stop our like food intake 2 to 3 hours before we go to bed. So like that leads to like a healthy like metabolism, a healthy like processing, digestion of food. But like if you're not like having trouble sleeping, if you're not having trouble with all these other things, then like in a perfect world, maybe we try and stop eating like couple hours before we go to bed. And it's not because we're gonna like hold on to fat more. It's not because of all these like nonsense things you might see on like the internet. It is just ultimately it helps with kind of just getting a good night's rest and a good night's sleep, and it's not gonna like interrupt your sleep, part way through the night. Okay, so that is just something I wanted to say when it comes to food intake prior to going to bed. And so, yeah, let's get into morning routine, finally. So, for me, this is what has been, yes, I'm the same way. I need to have some protein. What about eating in bed? What about eating in bed? That's funny. Eating in bed. It's probably not the best. It's probably not the best. If we could eat in the kitchen, that'd probably be ideal. Do you read at night, Connor, or just morning, Rob? That's going to lead, thank you for this segue, Rob, leading into morning routine, okay? So reading, that is what I typically try and do first thing in the morning when it comes to my morning routine. So healthy habits when it comes to morning routine, okay? All right, so these are like the things that I try and do for the first, let's say like couple hours when I start my day, okay? I'm not someone that's gonna like wake up in the morning and be like let's freaking go. Like I'm needing to like do my work like right when I wake up. Like I've tried that when I used to work my corporate job. Worst thing I could ever do. Like I like rolled out of bed at like 9 a.m. and started my job at 9 a.m. My day was like done. Like my day was shot. Like I didn't feel like confident that I did any work prior to that for myself. You know what I mean? So here are just some like, if you have like an hour or two where you can wake up earlier, if you're before you're starting your work day, where you can incorporate maybe some of these things, I feel like it's gonna do so much for you, okay? Because it's done so much for me, and I want to kind of just speak on this a little bit, okay? So the first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I have my Bible here, but I have like the Holy Bible app that I just downloaded, and I pray first thing every morning, and I also I call it like a prayer meditation time. So for the first say like 15 minutes, I just spend that time just like devoted to God, devoted to Jesus, spending my time doing that. And the cool thing on the Bible app is it actually tracks your like streak, the number of times that you've used and logged in and done this kind of daily refresh kind of thing, like reading from scripture. I love that. I don't know what you guys' faith, your ideas on like faith are, but like that's what I love starting my day with, is spending my time like in scripture, reading the Bible, and doing some like morning meditation as well. So that does a lot for me. I do that for like 15-30 minutes, and then I get my butt out of bed and I go to the gym and do my workouts. So I do my reading on the treadmill. I read 10 pages first thing in the morning. The book I am reading right now is the follow-up to this book I just finished. This book was freaking amazing. So this is The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And now I'm reading The Surrender Experiment. So I actually don't read at night, Rob. I tried doing that and like, I don't know, I just can't. It's just too boring for me. Like right now I'm like, I like have like told myself that without compromise, I need to read 10 pages per day. And I would prefer to do that like first thing when I wake up in the morning, right? So I tried to like sort of reverse my morning routine to my nightly routine, where it's like, okay, let me journal at night. Let me read at night. Let me pray at night. And I just couldn't do it. So I use that time like to do that in the morning. If I'm going to do it every day, then I'm going to do it like in the morning, first thing when I wake up. Okay. So we pray in the morning, we meditate in the morning. We do that for 15 to 30 minutes, and then we read 10 pages in the morning. It makes me fall asleep so fast. Yeah, I guess if you're also having trouble like sleeping, you could also read a book too, instead of going on your phone, you know what I mean? And one thing, this is like all over the place, I totally recognize that, but one thing I will say is like something that I've noticed like with I think there's like notifications on Instagram that are like, it constantly wants you to like stay on the app. It wants you to come back and check notifications. If you don't have notifications turned off from social media, please turn those off. Like, please turn those off. I have not had social media notifications turned on in a very long time, for very good reason. And something like the reason why I have that is like, whatever is in social media, whatever is in these apps, it's going to be there the next time I look at it. Like something that I used to do was like check social media very often at night, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I missed like a message, I missed a comment, I missed a like, I missed something. I'm like, that is all gonna be there like tomorrow morning when I look in there, like to do whatever I have to do for it, you know? So I would just say like maybe like take a step back and think like, okay, I don't need to be like constantly aware of things that are going on like in social media 24 hours a day. Okay. Maybe you can do that. Like if you want to set an app limit on your phone, like I have like an app limit for Instagram and some other social media apps. Because I was realizing like my time on there would just like run away. So, maybe try reading a book to get it, fall asleep better. I personally, something about it, I don't prefer it, but I would like to like start doing that. So maybe I will start doing that, Rob. But yeah, let's get back into morning routine. So I do my reading in the morning. I do 10 pages. I have the time limit as well. If you have a time limit on Instagram or any social media, like, or any other apps, like let me know what your time limit is. Okay. My time limit on Instagram, it's probably gonna sound ridiculous, but my time limit on Instagram is 2 hours. I also use Instagram for work purposes, obviously, too. So it's like not like 2 hours where I'm just like, what is everyone doing? Like, it's like 2 hours of me like creating content, responding to leads, responding to my clients, watching my clients' stories, commenting on my clients' stories, commenting on my clients' posts. Like I use it for work, but like, let me know if you have like app limits set on your phone and if you like set it to something. Cause I have it for, I just set it for 2 hours. So I use 1 hour. Yeah, I feel like 1 hour is probably a lot more common, like maybe 30 minutes. But I feel like that's a pretty common like time limit. All right. So we pray, we meditate, we read, and then we also journal in the morning. And this is what I wanted to talk about when it comes to like healthy habits, when it comes to business, but this is just something I do in the morning every day. So I just want to incorporate it into the morning routine section of this spiel. So I've kind of shared like my journaling kind of things that I do every morning for 10 to 15 minutes. So I just do that. And then I just get my workouts in and we're good to go. So we do that all in like a couple hours and then I can start my workday. Yeah. So I think it's, if you've never had like a morning routine before, I cannot vouch for having some kind of your routine. Like when it comes to like your morning routine, it can be super duper catered to you and your preferences and things that you want to do with, your mornings before you have like obligations you need to tend to. Like if you have like obviously work obligations that you have to do, like if that starts at 9 a.m., then maybe like let's wake up a couple hours before 9 a.m. instead of like rolling out of bed and like starting our work at like 9 a.m. I think you're going to feel a lot better about yourself. I think you're going to start to feel a lot more confident and proud that like you're putting in investments into yourself and your development that no one can ever take away from you. Okay. So like you can do some research and do some things that like you really want, enjoy, like when it comes to like, what are things that are going to make me feel good about myself? And for me, that is my prayer. For me, that's my meditation. It's reading, it's journaling, it's getting in some kind of physical activity first thing in the morning. And that's what I love about my morning routine. And the best thing is that you can do your morning routine wherever you are in the world. Like if you're on vacation, like I was doing my morning routine when I was on vacation, I was waking up a little bit earlier, but I was still getting in my morning routine, like for the 2 weeks that I was with my family, like on my family vacation. So, and it's like fun, like it's like a game. Like I feel like it's like this game that you can play because you're like, wow, I have all this to look forward to, like when I'm around people, but like this is my time where there's not as much noise. It's just quiet. It's you and your process. It's you and your morning routine where you're just like, no one's bothering you. You're not getting messages from like left and right. It's like the quietest part of the day. So like, that's why I feel like that's so important to like take advantage of when you have that time before you're getting like, all these things that are coming at you left and right, like throughout your day. Right. So morning routine is huge. And how we develop a good morning routine and starting it on time, because maybe we have work obligations that start at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., is we probably should be waking up on time to start our morning routine so we have enough time to get through our morning routine. And the way we do that is we get enough sleep. We get 7 to 8 hours. That means we have to have a good nightly routine. So we need to go to bed at the proper time, right? So that's why nightly routine prefaced the morning routine, and that's why they're both super important. So let's talk about training, let's talk about diet, and then that will wrap up healthy habits for fitness, okay? So I talked about on the diet side, let's get our protein in. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was water. I kind of talked about that when it comes to, needed to hear this, how do you get remotivated after you've been off for a while? Yeah, I feel like that ties in, that's a good question, it ties into like the training side of things. Let's talk about like getting back into it, okay? When it comes to like healthy habits for training and your nutrition, okay? So I talked about the water intake, and I feel like a lot of times, like when it comes to your diet, it might be like super overwhelming, right? So I was talking about like, let's maybe just try and hit our protein intake. Like let's try and get enough protein for the day. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to be like, it might sound like it's a lot of protein for the day, but if you can shoot for like getting in your body weight in grams for protein, if you're a guy, that would be perfect. Maybe you weigh 200 pounds and you've never eaten 200 grams of protein in your life. Maybe in your entire life since you were born, you've never had 200 grams of protein, like cumulative. You know what I mean? And now I'm trying to ask you to do that on a daily basis. You're probably like, bro, this is impossible. Well, I got good news for you. Maybe like you can try eating some certain foods that literally you can do that in just a couple servings of them, right? So maybe you can have like a protein shake with 2 scoops of protein. You already got like a quarter of your protein, okay? That's like 50 grams of protein right there. So maybe we just shoot for our protein goal. If you're a woman, maybe we just get like 75% to 80% of how much we weigh in grams. So like if we're 100 pounds, I use that as an example. It's just easy to compute. Maybe we get in 75 to 80 grams of protein. And if you have 2 scoops of protein, you're already halfway there. So yeah, Maybe let's just shoot for getting our protein intake in. It's going to help with, retaining our muscle, retaining our strength. And as we age, the first thing that goes is our strength, and the next thing that goes is our muscle size. So we want to do our best to maintain our muscle as best we can, especially as we get, as we age, okay? So the only other thing I want to talk about was the water intake when it comes to diet. Maybe you're someone that's like never like been a big, I've had clients that like, they don't drink water. They just don't drink water because they don't like the taste of it, or they're just not used to like drinking so much water on a daily basis, okay? So good news is that maybe you're used to like, because you haven't been drinking water, you like to drink like really sweet and sugary drinks, or you like to drink like some pop or soda or something like that, right? Or like energy drinks that have a lot of sugar in them. Maybe you like to drink a lot of alcohol. So if we can like incrementally, gradually transition some of that to water, if you want to put in these like Mio squirters like I do, like this is fruit punch, strawberry watermelon, that like makes it taste better and it's not so bland. Like if you're like me, I can't just drink water, like plain water. Like it stinks. Like I just like wouldn't want to do it either. So I put some Mio flavor, like water flavoring in there so it tastes better. And that's also going to replace a lot of calories that like maybe you're like drinking and getting in from like other sources too, okay? So that's important. And what I like to say is if we can get a gallon of water in every day, if you're a guy, that's perfect. If you're a girl, if you can get in 100 fluid ounces, which is about 75 to 80% of a gallon, that's perfect. So, yeah. All right. And then the last thing on the water intake is vitamin water. Vitamin water is good. I like the 0-calorie vitamin water. Like that's ideal. So vitamin water is pretty good. I don't think there's like any like sugars or any like maybe like other calories or anything like that in there. So that's good. Yeah. So the only other thing I wanted to mention on the water was try and cut that out. If you can get all that water in before noon, perfect. You might have to pee, like you might not be used to drinking that much. Excuse me. So you might be like peeing like super frequently when you first start doing that. That's normal, okay? Your bladder's probably not have that much like water and like that frequency of water and like for your entire life. So that's going to be important. And the reason why I like to get that in prior to noon and then just sip of my water like as I'm thirsty is that I get my water intake in for the day, and then after noon, like literally after noon, until I go to bed, just sipping on my water like as I'm thirsty. I'm not taking gulps. I'm not trying to finish this whole thing. Like this is like half a gallon right here basically. The reason I do that is that so it doesn't interrupt my sleep when I'm sleeping, so I don't have to like wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And that's like making me like wake up and maybe sometimes like hard to get back to sleep, okay? So that's why I like to try and get my water intake in the mornings before noon in a perfect world. And yeah, so that's what I want to talk about on diet. Training side, super quick. Daily healthy habits are, if you wear an Apple Watch, try and just get 10K steps per day, okay? Maybe you just try and like keep track of it, right? Like you look at your Apple Health data, you look at your health data if you don't have an iPhone, and you're like, let me just see how many steps I take throughout the day. If I'm like not trying to like do anything else from my like normal routine, right? And you realize you're like, wow, I only get, who knows, like 5,000 steps per day. And just so you know, do you use Mio Energy or Reg Mio? Rob, I'm not a Mio Energy fan because I tried to limit my caffeine intake. So I'm definitely a regular Mio for sure. I'm actually not a Mio fan. I just said that because I feel like most people know what that is. I'm actually a Kroger brand water enhancer fan. I used to be Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid has these like sugar-free squirters. Probably the best flavors you'll be able to find anywhere. I will vouch for them. So, yeah. And so back onto the training side of things when it comes to steps. So 10K steps per day, I think is a good goal to shoot for. So 10K steps, maybe you're just like getting into tracking your steps, or like you're just starting to wear a watch, or, if your phone will just track this for you like normally. Okay. And you're like, wow, I'm hitting 5K steps per day. Well, that's actually 5K steps is the equivalent. So 10K steps is the equivalent to 5 miles per day. And you're probably like, bro, like that's so many miles. Like, I don't think I can walk 5 miles in a day. I feel like you'd be surprised. Okay. I would say like I have a desk job. I'm sitting here typing all day, for the most part. And I probably get 5,000 steps just from like walking to my mailbox and back and just going around my like community, like when I need to, right? Like taking the garbage out, doing random things. So you're probably walking 2.5 miles, getting 5K steps per day, like without even really noticing it. Okay. And so like this is from your start to finish of your entire day. Okay. So if you wanted to maybe get 10,000 steps per day, what this is doing is you're just burning more calories. Okay. Like it's raising your metabolic rate. You're burning more calories. You're going to be able to eat more if you get more steps in. So that's why this is important, okay? And I want to just break it down super basic that we can have like a daily healthy habit that we just shoot for. So it's not super overwhelming. We're not confused, and we don't have any like barriers to entry when it comes to like getting started on something, okay? And like I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want to like freak you out when it comes to your training and your fitness and things. So I want to make it easy for you. So maybe let's just shoot for a step count per day. And how I get 10K, like how I get my extra 5K steps in 2.5 miles is I go on a 45-minute walk every single day. I do it in the morning and read my book on the treadmill. I do it because it's time efficient and I can like knock 2 birds out with 1 stone. I can get my 10K steps and I can get my 10 pages of reading done. I used to actually like be a little less efficient when it comes to, it's really not hard to get 10K, park farther, take the stairs, go for an evening walk. Yeah, exactly. Or something. Exactly, Meg. Yeah, you can do like all these things to help get more steps, right? Like Meg said, like you can like take the stairs if you need to. Like I live on a floor where like I need to take an elevator or something. Like if you're at work or you have to take the elevator, like maybe you take the steps, or maybe you park somewhere with your car and you walk a little farther. Maybe you take an evening walk for 45 minutes. Like I used to take a walk outside for 45 minutes, and if it's a nice night out, you can go watch the sunset or something, right? Again, I don't think it's like too much to ask for, but like maybe if it is too much, like maybe you just like gradually work up to there where you can kind of get there, So yeah. So daily step goal, let's shoot for that. Like let's shoot for working up to 10K per day, okay? And the only other thing I want to say is maybe you're someone that's never done any kind of weight training before. You've never done any kind of resistance training before. I think maybe we should like start getting into a routine of like maybe at least like trying that out, right? And like if you're like me, like the first time I started to lift a single weight in a public gym, in a commercial public gym, it was like the most embarrassing thing. Like it was the most like anxiety inducing thing. I was like, everyone knows that I'm like new here. Everyone knows that I'm like super young and skinny and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm by myself, And I get that. Like I totally get that. I think everyone gets that, and like everyone feels that way when they first start anything, right? But I think that doing some kind of like resistance training, getting on some kind of good like weight training plan is important. Because like I mentioned a little bit earlier, as we age, the first thing that we tend to lose is that our strength begins to atrophy, whatever that word is. And then our muscle size begins to atrophy as well. So we get weaker and our muscles begin to get smaller, okay? And we want to do our best to at least maintain that. And the only thing that's going to help us at least maintain that and fight off that aging, atrophication, if that's a word, is by doing some kind of resistance training, okay? And like literally taking like 1,000,000 steps back and looking at it from 1,000,000 bird's eye view away. Why this is important is because let's say you get to an old age where you're like 50 or 60 or 70 and you are like stepping down off of like a curb or something. You're going down or stepping out of the bathtub or like the shower or something. And you're not strong enough where you accidentally like are trying to like catch yourself with your like lower body. You're trying to catch yourself when you're like coming down off of this curb, you're coming out of the bathtub, you're coming out of the shower, or taking, you know, a step down, like a couple steps or something, and you're not strong enough to like catch your body weight, and you end up falling and hurting yourself. So we don't want that to happen, because the older we get, the more likely it is that we're not going to be able to recover from something like that, okay? Like, you could literally die from doing that, okay? So we want to make sure that we are strong enough to prevent ourselves from injuring our leg, injuring our hip, or injuring, like, breaking a bone in our body, where because we're at a certain age, like, our body's not going to be able to recover like it once used to, okay? And so, yeah, strength training is so important. Going to the gym can be super intimidating to people that don't go, but everyone starts somewhere. It's just a matter of getting started and putting yourself out there. Exactly, Meg, you got that. Right? And now your hip broke. Exactly. We don't want our hips to be broken like that, okay? So that's why it's important to like start early. Even if you're like a little bit older and you're maybe getting up there in age, like, let's start with like some at-home, super easy peasy, you know, resistance body weight training kind of things, okay? Like, nothing crazy. You know, if it means 5 minutes, it's better than nothing, you know? So, like, maybe let's start with 5 minutes, and we just do a couple sets of, you know, you could pick a rep range of anything to progress with, but maybe we do a couple sets of, you know, 8 to 20 reps of something, okay? And we pick different body parts that we want to focus on, and maybe we get confident enough where we can go to the gym and start to work on, like, a weight training plan. We can get comfortable doing exercises that get us stronger. You know, we're going to get stronger. Our bodies are going to look better. Our physiques are going to look more proportional and better. We're going to feel better about ourselves. We're going to be stronger. We're not going to die from these, you know, life-threatening falls if that ever happens. And by doing some kind of like resistance training program, it's going to prevent some kind of like life-threatening, you know, disease or illness that enters our body because we kind of fell and we weren't strong enough to catch ourselves, like from coming out of the bathtub when we're older, from coming down steps when we're older, or something like that, okay? All right, so that is fitness. We covered fitness, spent like an hour on fitness, but let's talk about some healthy habits when it comes to business, okay? So these are some of the things that I've done. I have like 3 quick things I just wanted to say in my experience over the past 2 years when it comes to healthy habits and growing, you know, business related. And so these are what I would say. And like, you can apply this to like working in corporate. You can apply this to working your career, like whatever you do for your job, you can apply this to anything, okay? So if you're like me when it comes to work, if it comes to your job, comes to life in general, let's say you do your whole nightly routine, you do your whole morning routine, and you're feeling like the bomb.com, and you're like, nothing's going to stop me, I'm unstoppable. And then you get to like work, and you have like a million things to do, and maybe you do actually 999,999 of them. But the one thing that you didn't finish that would have gotten you to that millionth thing, you just feel like you didn't do enough. Like you weren't good enough for that day. Like you didn't do enough for that day. You feel like you lost the day because you didn't do that, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever felt that way, because like I used still feel like that sometimes, but I used to feel like that all the time. And so what is going on, Jafia? So, the way that I've kind of like restructured my perspective on this, and the way that I see like my like career landscape in the world, is that I want you to shorten your daily tasks that I call them kind of critical tasks. So I want you to shorten that number to only 3 to 5. Okay? Only do 3 to 5 critical tasks in your day, and do them very first thing whenever you start your workday. Don't feel like you do like I used to do some of like the easiest things to like get myself some momentum, like when it comes to like doing my work. It's like, okay, I've got 5 emails to respond to, I've got 10 texts to respond to, I've got 15 client messages, I've got 20 DMs. where do I like go first? Okay, like, and then I'd like kind of like negotiate with myself and being like, well, I could probably knock off like some emails that are super easy peasy. What is going on, Leah? I could probably answer some of these things. And then I didn't have like some other things that were like super more important, that were like grand scheme more important than like responding to some messages. You know what I mean? So some of those like critical tasks for me are like taking my phone calls. So I have like phone calls that I take every day that I need to take because they're going to push my business in the right direction. Like without compromise, like we take every single phone call when that phone call is scheduled, and like I do not reschedule those phone calls to the best of my ability, if we don't have to, right? So we take all of our phone calls for the day. This is me personally, like these are my critical tasks. I post on social media because that is what my business is. I have to post across all social media, and I make sure I do that at least once a day, if not several times a day. And the third thing that I do is I answer all of my messages within 24 hours. And so I'm like, if I can do all of those three things like in my day, we had a good day. Okay. And if I don't get to like one thing, which was something that was like a cherry on top, like making like a lesson for my clients or something, I don't feel like so bad about myself about how the day went, right? Because I was like, these are 3 tasks that are going to move me in the right direction. And I did all those tasks, okay? And I know that I stuck to that plan. I know this is going to like double my business. It's going to triple my business. It's going to 5x, 10x my business. These were things that I did for my day that I know have done this because I have a proven track record of doing them that have like doubled my business, tripled my business, 5x, 10x my business. And I've done them every day, and I'm seeing them, I'm seeing the fruition of them, if you will, okay? What is going on, Meg, from Actually in the House? And so, yeah. And then like, you have like all these like little itty bitty things that like, if you get through all your critical, like, daily tasks that you do, then maybe you can like knock those off one by one, and you actually feel like you did more than you thought you would for the day. And you feel a lot better about yourself. Okay. And then, just the last thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to a healthy habit to growing like a business or your career or something like that is shortening I was talking about shortening the number of daily tasks you had. On the flip side of that is how we measure progress, okay? And this was something that I actually took from reading this book. Excuse me, The Power of One More by Ed Milet. One of the chapters was on one more goal or something like that. And one of the things that he said was shortening your measurement interval of your progress within your business or within your career or something like that. You could shorten your measurement interval of whatever it is you want to do, okay? And so like, what does that even mean? Like, what is a measurement interval? You might be asking. So think of it like, how are we tracking our progress? If you're thinking about like, maybe your goal right now when it comes to your fitness is I want to lose 10 pounds, okay? And so you're like, how do I even track my progress? Well, you weigh yourself, okay? And you weigh yourself at the same time, every single morning, and you take an average of your weekly weigh-ins, okay? And then you compare your weekly weigh-ins to the next week and the next week and the next week. And that's how you like accurately, objectively can measure your progress, okay? And so if you want to, maybe I should have said you weigh yourself once a week, okay? And so if we can kind of shorten our measurement interval down to like a smaller and smaller and smaller increment, the more, I guess, the better of a decision making that we'll be able to make based upon and a more accurate way of making decisions, if that makes sense. So I'll try and explain this. So like, let's say we're weighing ourselves once a week and we're like 200 pounds. Next week, same time in the morning, right? Next week, we're 201. Next week, we're 199. The following week, we're 198. Right now we've been measuring our weight once a week in the mornings, okay? So if we want to shorten the measurement interval, maybe get a more accurate measure of what that measurement is, maybe we can weigh ourselves several times during the week and take an average of that, okay? and then we get a more accurate, more objective number in what that measure is. And, maybe it takes out the outliers too, okay? And so how I've actually shortened the measurement interval for me when it comes to business is I journal every single morning. And so when I journal every single morning, I have these like weekly and monthly tasks that I'm working towards. So basically it's like 7 reels in a week, 30 reels in a month, reels / TikTok / YouTube shorts. So it's basically doing one of those every single day. I'm journaling and showing my progress through the week. So it's like Friday, okay, I got 5 posts up for the week. We're 5 out of 7, 5 posts up for August. We're 18 posts for August. We're 18 out of 30. You know what I mean? So, some of the other ones are like clients that I have, I'm like, how many clients did I sign this week? Okay. Like I'm trying to sign 5 a week and like 25 or 25 a month, right? It's like, what's my measurement on that? So instead of measuring it on a weekly basis, instead of measuring on a, New Year's basis where we do it once a year, maybe we measure like seeing our progress towards our goals on a monthly basis. Maybe we start to see it on a weekly basis. Heck, if you want to journal every single day like I do, maybe we can see it on a daily basis too. So I have found that whenever we shorten that measurement interval to a daily basis, that I can pivot when I need to pivot, do, objectively bird's eye view, look at my actions and see, are my critical tasks that I'm doing on a daily basis pushing me forward? Am I making progress on these goals, or do I need to change some of these tasks up, reorder them, restructure them, reprioritize them so that they're moving me in the direction that I want to go? Okay. So that is all I wanted to say on the business side. Lastly, I want to wrap this up because this is the longest live I've ever done in my life, and I'm loving it. I will say I am loving it. Hi, Connor, greets from the Netherlands. What is going on? We got the Netherlands in the house. All right, so the last one I wanted to talk about was relationships. So if I post this, I wonder if IG would let me post like a more than an hour long live. Who knows? I guess we'll have to see. But I feel like it would. But if you've been here the whole time, like you guys are freaking rock stars. You're looking better than ever. And so I appreciate you guys. So last one I want to talk about was daily healthy habits to grow your relationships. We got Hi Connor from Idaho. What is going on? We got Idaho in the house. Love that. We love that. Welcome. All right, last one is we're going to talk about daily healthy habits to grow our relationships, okay? So let's get into this a little bit. It's probably going to be like 5 minutes and I'll cut it. But this is what I want to say on that note, okay? So this is going to be having to do with your relationships with your family. It's going to be having to deal with relationships with your friends, your friendships, and your romantic and intimate relationships as well, okay? It all kind of ties into one, okay? So something that I do is I want to talk about traditions, okay? So if you're like me and like, I had a really, really good childhood, like growing up. Yes, I think you're good to post 1 hour lives now. Cool. Perfect, Jafia. Thank you. Like I had a really, really good childhood growing up. We had a lot of really like cool family traditions that we do like every single year. We go down to the beach every single year. Around holidays, we have traditions. Like we all go to each other's homes and like get together for like holidays, the whole family. We have these traditions that we do, right? You decorate your house for different holidays. So that's, obviously what a tradition would be, right? But I think it's cool because you can make a tradition out of anything, right? You can make a tradition out of calling someone, every single Sunday night or something like that. Like once a week, I'm going to call my best friend or my family member, like once a week. That's a tradition you could do, that's a tradition you could implement every single week, every other day, maybe once a month, calling someone on their birthday. That's fun. You could make traditions out of like dating, like going on a date with your significant other once a week. Every single Friday, we're going on a date. I don't care what you say. We're going on a date. Okay. Or maybe it's like, the first day of every month, we're doing something super romantic, like super lovey-dovey or something like that, So, or maybe it's like with friendships or something like that. You know what I mean? Like maybe you have like, the first of every month we're having like a hangout, first day of every month. We're doing some kind of hangout. We're doing something fun together. I don't care what you're doing. You're hanging out with me, okay? And I'm going to hang out with you and we're going to have a good time, okay? So like, I want to kind of just like reiterate, like when it comes to growing your relationships with your family, friends, and significant others, that you can never stop creating traditions together, okay? And if you never stop creating these traditions and keeping these traditions in place in your life, then it is inevitable that your relationships with these people are going to grow over time, okay? It's impossible for it to not, because it's literally quality time with each other, and that's one of the most powerful love languages there is, and it's inevitable that it can only grow, right? Or if it's going to stop, it's going to stop for good reason, because you realize it's probably not the best friendship, it's probably not the best relationships that you're in. Disney movie night's a classic Friday night tradition. That's like the sickest. I love that. I love that classic Friday night tradition. I'm going to have to start doing that, Jafia. Yeah. So traditions never stop. Traditions never stop. And if traditions never stop in your relationships, it's inevitable that you're going to grow whatever that relationship is. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to say was, if you're like, obviously like you're like texting people, messaging people, calling people every single day, right? That you're in relationships with. Yeah. And so one thing I did want to mention is that the faster that you respond, if you want someone to keep talking to you, right? Like if you have a really, really cool friend, close friend, if you're like dating someone new or something like that, if you want someone to keep talking to you because you want them, you want to grow your friendship with them and you want to grow your connection with them, right? The faster that you respond to them, the better. Okay. So it's something that like I kind of think about. I'm starting to think about in the back of my mind. Like if I have a friend that just texts me out of the blue and says something, I'm like immediately like I'll heart their message and respond to them instantaneously, right? If I'm like dating someone and they send me a message, I'm like instantly hearting their message, responding to them immediately, because I want to grow that relationship with them and I want them to keep talking to me, right? And if you want someone to keep talking to you, the faster that you respond, the more communicative, whatever, I don't think that's the right word, but like the faster that you respond to them, the more likely it is that they're going to respond to you back quicker too, okay? So like I used to play this ridiculous game of like, oh, well, they didn't respond to me for such a long time. I'm not going to respond to them for such a long time. Or like, they didn't reach out to me first. I'm going to like wait, not respond to them. It's like, that is nonsense, okay? If you want someone to like keep talking to you, then you need to like respond to them. The faster you respond to them, the more your relationship with that person is going to grow, because the faster that they're going to communicate with you too, okay? So that's a quick one-off. And then the last thing is to be more of an initiator when it comes to showing your appreciation, when it comes to showing your gratitude. Something that I'm trying to do more of, like as I grow up and mature, is being someone who initiates more. So when it comes to like my friendships, like telling my friends how much I love them, like telling my friends like how much, if it's their birthday, like I'm the one that's like first thing in the morning, like I want to be the one that like reaches out to them like at midnight or something like that on their birthday, right? And like I want to be that first person for them. When it comes to my family, like I want to be the initiator. I want to be the one that says I love you. When it comes to my romantic relationships with my significant others, like other singular, I want to be the one that says I love you first, more often, and so like you need to be the initiator to grow relationships, but then to also like to receive that back to you more, right? So if maybe you find yourself in a place where you're like, man, like I'm not like really like receiving a lot of like gratitude or thank yous or love like in my relationships, then instead of like sort of like seeing yourself as this like victim and like this like I'm like this victim mentality, like I'm not receiving enough gratitude, I'm not receiving enough like appreciation or love or thank yous from people that I think I'm close with, then you can change that. Like you have full control over that, right? And I feel like just watch how much that changes when you just initiate more. Like, you become the initiator. You are the one that says thank you. You are the one that shows appreciation. You're the one that says I love you first. Okay? And like, watch how much that changes like over time. I swear, like, it's gonna ripple and like compound like you have no idea, because I've been doing this. I started doing this for the past couple of years, and I get some of the kindest messages from like the people that matter most to me in my life, like from complete strangers. And I'm telling you, it's because like I started to put things out into the world that like I know are going to come back. And one thing I do just want to like cap this with, because I feel like it's a good way to just end this, is that I don't know what your spiritual beliefs are. I don't know what your faith beliefs are, but I saw this on Instagram the other day, and I thought it like was so accurate. It was from this book. It's also a movie called The Secret, but this guy was talking about how like you're going to be able to do things for people over the course of your entire life. You're going to be able to do things for people that are never in their entire lives going to be able to repay you for what you do for them, right? And the key is to think that what should you care about that? They're a part of the universe. The universe is going to give that right back to you eventually, okay? And like that's been my mindset when it comes to like everything, when it comes to growing my relationships, when it comes to growing my business, when it comes to growing my fitness, is like I'm going to do things for people when it comes to my sharing my healthy habits, when it comes to my fitness, sharing some of the things that help me with my business, sharing some of the things that have helped me with growing my relationships, that I know like none of you who are listening to this or watching this are ever going to be able to like repay me for like whatever I'm sharing or saying or doing for people. I don't expect that to be returned to me like from that specific transactional relationship, because none of my relationships are transactional in that way. And I have this like long game view of it where it's like, if I sort of catch wind of it, like next year, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, that would make my life, you know? But I don't need to like catch wind of it. Like I don't need to hear about that it helped them, right? I just know at the end of the day, like at the end of the game, what is going on, Andrew? That like you're going to be able to do things for people that are never going to be able to repay you, but what should you care? They're part of this world. They're a part of this universe, and the universe is going to give it right back to you at some point, okay? So that is what I wanted to leave you guys with, this 71-minute live that I came at you guys with. I still have to go hit my workout, and God provides what's needed. Thanks for sharing. Love that. I love to end on that note. So, yeah, I have not hit my workout yet. We're going to go hit a little Friday night workout. And I hope you guys have a safe Friday night and safe weekend, okay? All right, love you guys and see you soon. Peace.